Hello, this is the voice of Stuart Pearce, and welcome to my series of deep dialogues. These are vital conversations I engage in with global soul stewards from all over the planet, providing us with vital understandings about how we can create a new hierarchy of values to help us evolve into a brave new world. I hope you enjoy, and thanks for listening.
Hey, I'm with a
Hey,
very dear friend, John Patrick Morgan, everybody. This is a remarkable man who I'm going to introduce you to very, very fully. But firstly, if JP, if you don't mind me saying, welcome everybody. Namaste, namaste, beacons of light. Darren's on the line. Can you see the comment box, by the way?
I can see. Yeah, I see. Darren, Diamond, Janie, Bradley, whole loads of people. Yeah,
Bradley, who's looking very smart. I don't
he
quite know who
does.
Bradley is, but in his suit. And Stacy and Kathleen and
Lewis.
Demonte. Oh, look, all these
That's
wonderful people. Greetings from Maine, Hakeem. That's an
Demonte
unusual.
is the woman Diamond that you met at the event.
Ah, okay. Wonderful, beautiful, beautiful. Jane and
Randy,
Stacey,
Karina, lots of people.
Lois, welcome, welcome, welcome. And Karina, wonderful. Randy, welcome, welcome, welcome. Lots of great necktie. Well, you see that JP is on the island of Maui in a secret location on the top of a mountain. So he's wearing a wonderful Hawaiian shirt. Anyway, I know many of you know him, but let me really introduce him to you. I have his bio in front of me, and it's a very illustrious bio, everybody. So, as you roll in, namaste, namaste, namaste. John Patrick Morgan, I call him JP, leads a team of creating champions who coach thousands of enterprising professionals in the art of being free, loving, and powerful. By learning and embodying the principles of creating champions, many clients have achieved outstanding outcomes concerning their spiritual growth, material wealth, and social impact in the world. So JP, post his formal studies in physics and mathematics, built a number of small businesses, developed real estate, traveled the world, appeared in a band, recording albums, coached human rights leaders, created a children's library in Cambodia. That's a big story. Learned scuba dive and pilot gliders, published writing and photography books, competed as a black belt and triathlete, trained with Buddhist monks in India. I mean, it goes on and on. And cycle toured for months on end and had more innumerable adventures. But in recent years, an essential part of JP's life purpose has become adoring his family, and he and his wife now reside in Maui with their two boys. The core foundation and essence of John Patrick Morgan's role as a philosopher, teacher, and guide is that he lives as a real world practitioner who walks his talk by embodying his teaching, providing genuine commitment to all his clients. So there's a very illustrious bio to begin. And of course, I've been very short. He has a much longer bio. Um, So, JP, we move into this really interesting crucible of creating love and power. And, perhaps you could just address that to begin with, and
Yeah,
how the two articles of love and power in your belief system are juxtaposed.
yeah. So power for me, I relate to. You mentioned physics and mathematics or my educational background, and in physics, the equation for power is power equals work divided by time. And what they mean by work in physics is essentially the change made to some system. You could say a transfer of energy, but another just more normal way of saying that is the difference made. The work done is the difference made. The difference we make is the work we do, divided by the time it takes us to make that difference. And so that's the way I relate to power. To me, it's not power over people. It's not about having authority. What is my capacity to make a difference in a particular amount of time? That's how I relate to power. And that could be that, Gandhi had great power in his capacity to make a big difference in a small amount of time. My wife has great power to calm my son Rumi down, power that I don't have, because she can calm him down much faster than I can. And so that's power. And power can come through lots of means. My particular value for what creates greater power is love. I have found that when a person is in a loving way of being, state of being, when they have love in their heart, when their heart is at peace, when they have love for another person, they're able to make a greater difference in a smaller amount of time in any context, whether it's, like I mentioned with my wife, or even if it's in some kind of like financial pursuit, when you're in a relationship, a sales context, being very loving in that context makes more sales faster, so whether it's leadership, anything. And so for us, I always say there's lots of ways to make money. There's lots of ways to make a difference. In creating, we do it through love. That's our choice. And so creating love, you could say it's creating love, which is power, or creating power through love, but we say creating love and power, and then explain how they come together.
Yeah. So, what brings to mind through this explanation is that you're really beginning to define and communicate something which is very dear to my heart, which I'm referring to as sacred commerce. Because after all, love has been approached as a feeling state amongst our peoples, and we know, particularly in the adoration of the divine feminine and the wonderful women, that when they're actually engaged in love, there is a quality of interconnectivity and empathic magic, sympathetic magic, which is just quite extraordinary. But now what's interesting is that you're bringing the faith of what love is all about. This is a space where love is made into the commercial world, which is particularly rich for this time as we look into the treachery, the perfidy, and the lack of cohesion that we see within the commercial world.
Yeah. When I first started in this personal development world 15 years ago, the first thing I did was an event called Creating Love and Money. Or no, they didn't have the word creating. It was just called Love and Money. Because a coach that I hired just noticed this interesting juxtaposition, how I was interested in helping people to make money, but I was also really valuing love, and be able to hold those two in the same space seemed like a contradiction to a lot of people, but there's a paradox in it that for me is really important and beautiful. I've never been willing to sacrifice love, and I have never really been willing to sacrifice creating the things that I wanted to create in my life that often would cost money. Not always, but often. And so by unwillingness to sacrifice either of those and hold them in that same space, I've developed essentially a language to explain what that is. It's not like I've made it possible, but I've developed a language, a way of talking about that, bringing people into experiencing both at the same time. So, yeah.
And what is the greatest act of love that you've established for yourself in your personal life?
I would say it is loving myself in the context of whether it's letting go of something, letting myself off the hook for something, forgiving myself. There's no, and that was actually really central in the Creating Love and Power event that you came to. It's like really forgiving ourselves for the unloving act of believing that we're something not born from love, not enough. That continues to be the kind of the I guess the benchmark of possibility for experiencing love. In each morning I write in my journal, and then I speak aloud in my signature note who I am. And one of the things that I say is I am forgiving and free. Just as a reminder that that's who I am, and that's my orientation. My freedom comes through my forgiveness. And by the way, freedom is like when you're free, love happens. You don't have to do anything. We create love through actually removing the obstacles to it.
Wonderful. And what is the greatest act of love that you've created in your professional life?
The greatest act of love that I've created in my professional life. I think it's unfolding right now, to be honest. We were just reflecting on the experience you had at our event in London, Creating Love and Power. And, I have related to the love that I can create with an individual through loving myself and loving them. And I've seen the product of that, both like as a product, but also the impact that has on them in their life and the ripple effect of that love. And it goes out But this was the first time that I've done a live event in probably 10 years, and the first time I've done it with this body of work. And what was powerful was having 55 people in the room and 40 on the live stream, all together going through that process of forgiveness in unison and with a synchrony. And there was a resonance to it that was not just the sum, but it was a multiplication factor. And I was really, I mean, I felt like I was on like I said, a surfboard. Like I was being carried through this experience. And so I think that it's just, the most powerful creation of love is unfolding right now, which is in the bringing this work to multiple people that are engaging in it at the same time and feeling the body of that. I mean, when you walked into the room, you talked about the love that you could feel that was distinct. So I think I'm waking up to right now that the most powerful thing that I've ever, I don't even want to say that I've created, that I've been a part of creating, that I've allowed to unfold is this creating love and power as an in-person, at least live experience, or people are going through a process of loving themselves and finding the power in that for them and for the world.
Mm-hmm. And the stimulant and trigger that has brought you to this stage, because we can see through what you've described that it's been cumulative, and it's brought you to this point where you feel yourself to be enraptured by this principle of creating love and power, presumably came from an observation on the outside of you, or indeed on the inside of you, of the complete opposite of loving, indeed of palpable hate.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Let's address the professional, because many of us are tuning in because we would like to hear vibrational matches being created with ourselves, but also that they become like surfboards or springboards to lead us into new thoughts. So what have you observed within the corporate world or the world of commerce that has been most hating?
Well, I think it's the idea that the zero-sum game of commerce, right? Like the idea that in order for me to make money, I have to win and somebody else has to lose. That you moving money from your bank account to my bank account means I won and you lost. And I know that most people will hear that and be like, no, that's not how I think about it. But it's like, there's what you say, then there's what you actually are feeling subconsciously. And I think that a lot of times we're making this, we're saying, well, that's just how it is. So I got to deal with it, and I'll be a nice person, but it's some people win, some people lose. And that as long as we're believing that even subconsciously, there's an unwillingness to just be a complete stand for loving a person. And there's so what I have found is that when people are willing to entertain the possibility that they can just love and that the money will come, then they will, and they do. And then it works out. And that when you're not willing to entertain that, when you're not willing to let go of the common cultural narrative of a zero-sum game, meaning that some people need to lose in order for others to win, that you never get to experience that. And you have to kind of play. You have to say, and I always say to people, you don't have to say for the rest of your life, I'm going to believe in this. You just have to say like, okay, on a Tuesday from noon to 3 o'clock, I'm going to go all in and just love. Which means when I say, and I put my hands out, what happens when you're just loving is that you automatically serve and help. Love makes a difference. And I'm just going to love people. And what happens is there's an exponential return on that love, because there's something that changes when a person is served by a person who's loving completely. In fact, I did a TEDx talk about this like 12 years ago. I called it taking, trading, and giving. Taking was when you're trying to get from somebody. Giving is when you're just purely there for them. And trading is when we are saying in our head that we're there for them, but there's something in our heart that's still trying to get. I want your approval. I want you to tell me that I'm enough. I want to get paid. You're not all in. But when you can let that go and you say, you know what, at least for the next couple hours, I'm just completely in self-sacrifice and in love for the other person. Something higher emerges. Something exponential gets created.
This is very exciting as you speak. So you conjure something which is very beautiful, which we know is happening through cognitive consonance around the world, and heart vibration, particularly in relation to all the work that HeartMath is doing and recognizing the heart has an energy field 5,000 times greater than the human brain. But at the same time, I'm thinking of two questions in my mind as you speak. And maybe the first is more applicable right now as you speak, this beautiful power that is emerging from the crucible of creating love and power, which is, if you were to choose 3 of the principal tools that you use to elicit this within the people that you work with, what would they be?
Well, I think the first thing is that I ask them, what would you love to create? And the reason I ask that is a fewfold. Number one is I want them to orient around love as the guide for what they do with their life, what they do today. And so people will sometimes hear that and be like, what would I want to create? No, I didn't say wanna. I said, what would you love to create? And it, depending on the person, it takes some time for them to really hear that word and to try that on. Put your hand on your heart, slow down, try it on. Look at what comes up when you think about it's like, oh, I'm not allowed to just say what I would love. Never mind, have it. It's like, wow, okay. So it's a confronting question. And then to create. And so that puts them in the position of agency of, wow, I am that which creates. I'm not at effect to the world. I'm in a place of agency and generation of it. So I love that. That's one of our primary tools. And I say it's a tool. It's not about getting the answer as much as it is about helping the question helps to orient a person. I had a dream about 2 ravens with human faces, and I asked them if they read my book, which I haven't written a book yet, but I will. But like in the dream I had, and one of them said I skimmed it and I loved it because of what the questions in it do to people. And so it's what the questions do to a person more than the answer that it generates that's really important and special for me. So what would you love to create today to bring it into the present moment? Another kind of core principle is one that's really emerged recently in the work of forgiveness. So we help a person to identify an idea they have about themselves that's limiting, and then they can work through a process of forgiving themselves with that. And so just a little mantra that just reflecting on that kind of that moment of Christ on the cross, and he says, forgive them for they know not what they do. And so on our team, we've been talking about the power of recognizing our innocence that gives us the ability to forgive ourselves. And so how do you presence your innocence? You presence yourself to them not knowing what they're doing. And so I've just generated this little mantra. And so I forgive myself for judging myself, for I know not what I did. Or I forgive myself for doing that thing, for I knew not what I did. Or I forgive that kid who bullied me, for he knew not what he did. And I really lean on, they didn't know what they were doing. And if I can, the moment I can see that, forgiveness spontaneously emerges, and then there's freedom, and then there's love, and now I have more power to create whatever I want to create in the world. So those would be 2. A third principle, let's see. I'm going to just a story that I was thinking to share that's just coming in now. I was on the plane on the way back from London, and there was a woman in the seat behind me, and she just got this idea in her head that the woman on the other row was videoing her husband, and thought that they were then, her and her daughter, that woman's daughter, were laughing at her about it. Now, what actually occurred was the woman was videoing her daughter. Her daughter was having an uncomfortable time on the flight, and they were laughing at the video. They were just teasing each other. And in the background, you could see this other woman's husband. But this woman got the idea that something else occurred. And she started just telling this woman, that was my privacy. You invaded my privacy. That was wrong. And she was just in a loop. The lady was trying to apologize, but she couldn't hear it. And she got it louder and louder. And now everybody, 3 rows all around, hearts starting to race. Uh-oh, you can just imagine what's going to happen. They're going to come in and tackle this person. And these things just blow up on the flight. And in my heart, X started racing. And there's 2 voices. One's like, fuck this lady. What the hell is she doing? Sorry for my language, but like, that's what was going on. It was like, she should just shut up. This is ridiculous. And the other one is like, somebody's got to come from love in a way that is going to diffuse this, or else. And I was literally on the fence. I could have gone either way, but I stood up and I turned around. And I didn't even know which way I was going to go. The energy was just making me do something. And I turned around and I looked at her. And the moment I saw her eyes, I felt all the way in the direction of just loving this person. And I just said to her, you need to calm down because they're going to come for you and they're very aggressive. And she's like, but it was wrong. She's recording me. It was wrong. I don't know why she did it. We can go straight to the police as soon as we land. But right now, we need to relax. Will you breathe deep with me? She said, yes. And I said, and she breathed with me and she said, thank you. And she calmed down. And I mean, from there all the way to baggage claim, people were thanking me for diffusing the situation. And I feel like a little bit like I got lucky, like I could have fallen on the other side and like kind of joined in, but like, because, so the point that I wanted to share here through that story is that moment that I looked through her very thick, foggy glasses, all the anger was fogging. She could barely see, but literally and metaphorically, she couldn't see, but I could see. The moment I saw her, my heart broke for her, and it was easy to just love her. And so another key to being filled with love is looking another person in the eyes and seeing their soul, seeing their innocence. And the moment we see that, it breaks us open. We're free. There's love. And then we have power to make a difference.
Beautiful. That's a wonderful story. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
And so just to comment on that, because I know that we have another subtext in our conversation, which goes beyond deep dialogues, but is also very illustrative of what you're talking about, I feel, that we're at this really interesting conjunction in our spiritual development as spiritual beings having a human experience, where we're seeing that the archetype of the king is being overtaken by the archetype of the superhero. So, of course, the first thing, and we've talked about the acquisition of sovereignty, that when we are sovereign in our own domain, it is purely and simply that we take on the archetypal key of understanding how the king queen sits within us, so that our power is resolved. It is not questioned. It is not malaligned or misaligned. It is simply something that flows very effortlessly through us, which is what I feel you're talking about in terms of love. And therefore we acquire magician status. So you see the spell that you put upon this beautiful woman through the action of love, because instantaneously you changed the vibration in that moment, was able to bring about an action of great good, which affected everybody around. So that's the power of the magician.
It is, yeah.
Steve was writing. Steve is a regular to Deep Dialogues. Steve Russo was writing by qualifying and seeing everything as love. Your world, our world, reflects the divine heart and transforms earthly life into heavenly life, a different, much more lovely mindset. So it's interesting, isn't it, that the beginning of forgiveness, it's like, there you are in Hawaii, and there you are, living the spirit of Ho'oponopono. And so forgiveness comes in to alter whatever the malaise is on the outside. This is a very mindful tool to keep reminding ourselves of, isn't it? Because it means we move into present conduct. In each second, we become present with what's the highest choice here, not what's the lowest choice.
I think the word for, I both love etymology. I sent you the etymology app. We're kind of geeking out on that together. The word forgive, etymologically, the word for is just the intensive prefix. So it just means greatly, a lot, strongly, very much. So to give greatly is what to forgive is. And I think that people hear it and they think, oh, that means to like not hold people accountable. That's not what it is. It's to give greatly. And when you give greatly, the higher over the lower, you're choosing the higher vibration. It's essentially just saying to love. And so, innocence, seeing my own innocence, seeing somebody else's innocence, forgiveness happens in that moment. So that's the thing I'm really, even more than forgiveness right now, I'm focused on what do I need to see in order for forgiveness to happen?
And, I just want to draw everybody, JP and I have already talked about this in our pre-show chat, but I just want to draw you to the conviction of what today is, because this is a new moon in Cancer. And actually all that you're describing, all that we're sharing, all that you wonderful, wonderful attendees, you listeners you watchers of Deep Dialogues, that what we're really talking about is the beautiful conviction of what Cancer Mother Love is all about. So the divine mother is teaching us through these extraordinary motions of our spirit. And there is a very fascinating astrological process taking place this month, between the new moon of today and the full moon, which is around August 6th. And what this is called by most astrologers is the finger of God. So we're talking about something really crucial that is taking place at this time. My next question for you is that, here you are on this extraordinary wave of energy. What you're talking about in your own unique perception, I believe, is a global wave that many of us have been working towards the creation of. And as a result of this wonderful wave of creativity, you tomorrow receive an email from the UN saying we've heard all about, from one of the principal of the UN, we've heard all about the extraordinary nature of your work, and we would like you to come to New York and speak about what creating love and power is about, that has far-reaching possibilities for all of the varying syndications within the United Nations. You have to choose one aspect because you only have half an hour to speak. Which aspect do you choose?
I choose, well, when I journal in the morning, I mentioned I write these declarations of who I am, and there's a set of them that are pretty much the same every day. And then I also leave space in my heart and my mind for other things to emerge. So it's like a process of inquiry. I'm always curious and excited. What's going to pop out today? And one statement that popped out today in between some others was, I am principle over power, and this is the source of my power. And that principle would be love, right? So actually, the paradox is that if you want power, if you want the ability to make a difference, then you have to make something else more important than that. And for me, that something else is love. So if they invited me in, I would talk about like them being more powerful through making it secondary to being more loving. And I would, whatever time they gave me, I would be using my love to sell them on that possibility. I would make the biggest difference that I could in moving them into making power secondary to love in service of a higher power.
Beautiful. What would you wear to radiate the color of love?
Wow, that's an awesome question. I hadn't worn a suit since my wedding, and then I wore it at the event. And it's been this, and this is the first time I've worn a button shirt for an interview in a while. So I'm in this place of really connecting with the how I present myself to the world as part of my gift. I've been so concerned with my own liberation to do whatever I want, wear whatever I want, but only recently have I really come in to understand this concept. I don't know where I got it from, but like when you take care of yourself, hygiene, the way that you dress, you express care for others, because people will see that in you. If you care for yourself that way, then they'll experience them as caring for you. Maybe you shared that with me years ago. I don't know, but like,
I
so
did.
you did. Okay. Thank you. But so I'm in this place of growing up when it comes to dressing up. I mean, I live on a farm. It wasn't until I was in London that I noticed how disheveled my clothes were, and I had to go buy a bunch of new ones. So most days it's not that, but what would I wear and what color? I would wear a suit, and I would wear, I like this. I remember going to see Malcolm Gladwell speak in London. He had this beautiful suit on and his massive afro. And I loved the contrast, the juxtaposition of something crazy and liberated, while at the same time being very, very well dressed in a kind of formal way. So I don't know what color it would be. I don't know. I want to say red, but not a red tie, because it's not power over. It would be a pink hue, because there's both power and femininity in it, and it would be inside of a black suit. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. That's wonderful. And not that I'm suggesting I'm committing a thought projection, but I was seeing pink.
You were cool. Okay, well, we got there. It took me 5 minutes, but
and I was, as you were describing, I was also playing that actually, I do a lot of image consultancy for my client. Well, not a lot, but I used to do more than I have done. But then, of course, people have actually, as a result of COVID, have stopped really dressing up for work. It's no longer de rigueur. We dress down today. But I would often create color motives, So I was seeing in slightly Austin Powers pink.
Very cool. Oh, pink suit. Wow, that's going for it. I like it. All right.
Um, Fantastic. And as a result of that, you see, this is going to be a thought form that's going to ripple through
Hmm.
the annals of the great bastion of the United Nations.
Awesome.
And so as you look to the future, as you begin to feel, because I know you have a highly intuitive aspect to your consciousness, a prophetic indeed aspect to your consciousness. As you look to the future, what would be the next becoming?
I just see that what we're up to just growing. I see myself being in rooms with many more people doing exactly what we did and holding the principle of love over everything, and allowing that experience to speak for itself. And I feel like I'm being carried right now. So my own personal growth at this point is, you know, coming from a very left brain mathematics and physics world and being kind of entering the world of magic, sympathetic magic, creation magic, wanting so much to fully believe in magic and let go of reason, and trying as much as I could to build up faith in magic and finding it to be a slog and to be difficult and to have this persistent doubt. And very recently, a few months ago, just discovering a new way of having an incredible faith in magic is actually through surrendering my faith in reason. And it's not like I just walking out into traffic now, but like there's this attachment that I've had to logic and reason that I find myself letting go of. And in the wake of that has been an incredible emergence of faith and trust in something greater than me,
Mm,
me and everything. It's not like this experience of there's some other, but me as everything. And that surrender to that, there are auspicious signs emerging everywhere. I talked about finding the screw in the street, and then the book that I picked up, and it talked about finding a screw in the street right in the first few lines. The dreams I'm having of numbers and trusting those. And so I will continue to ride this wave through a greater and greater surrender into the auspicious,
mm,
and divine providence. And I have a maybe it will look like that, but I'm also kind of like a child, like, ooh, what's it going to be like? I'm
mm.
excited to find out as well.
We hear the essential premise, which is really
Yes.
beautiful, which is the way that you're surrendering or yielding to divine flow,
Mm, mm,
knowing very well that the universe and all the varying constituent parts, divine Father, divine Mother, are looking
mhm,
after you, and that's where the magic lies. So there is no doubt in my being, there will be a fusion of extraordinary magic that will carry you
mm,
forward.
mm,
As well as this being very much the vox pop, this is very much the zeitgeist of what you're revealing to the world.
mm,
So you're also riding that flow current, which is
mm,
really, really crucial.
mm,
And you mentioned just now that if you had a doubt, there are doubts about the
mhm,
divine flow. And
mhm.
so how do you arrest the doubt? What is the doubt? What is the doubt about? How would you define that?
Well, I think the doubt in the divine flow is just, a habit and a pattern, part of the common cultural idea that you got to be reasonable, rational, you got to have an explanation for it. It's got to be logical. And I was a leader of that culture for a lot of my life. And so this is what I mean. As I've been trying to overcome that doubt with building up a faith in magic, which is always it's been a catch-22, because I'm trying to logic and reason myself into faith in something other than reason. And so what I'm just doing is coming back to, like, you
Mm,
know, doubting reason. And through doubting reason and doubting rationality and doubting logic, and just crack on the shell of that world
mm, mm,
has me finding out. And it's just, I'm just relaxing back into it. It's
mm,
kind of like you can't make yourself love, but
mm,
if you just put your attention on letting go of that which was obfuscating love, love happens pretty
mm,
spontaneously. So I'm approaching it the same way.
mm, mm. And if you were to choose a synonym to the word doubt,
Hmm.
what would it be?
Hmm. Um, I'm really connected to Shiva right now, creator and destroyer. So destroy, doubt, and destroy. Um,
Destroy doubt.
No, I'm saying it. I'm seeing doubt and destroy. I'm seeing destroy as a synonym to doubt,
Oh, how
because it's
interesting.
because it's that which it cracks something, which
Yeah,
breaks something.
yeah,
And so, I'm using the word destroy as the yang to the yin of creation in that kind of beautiful both and context.
yeah, yeah. And so perhaps we can all create a spell for you, those of us
Thank
to
you.
tune in, so that the journey into the release of the willfulness of doubt,
Mm,
both in terms of the sacred or magical and the profane and logic. Perhaps we
yes.
can create a spell. Do you hear what I'm saying? Darren has just written in the comment box, real men wear pink. I think
I have a lot of pink shirts.
I think that's an interesting, because it moves you from the
Mm,
man that you are into a very different way of being, because you're obviously very
mm,
defined within your masculinity, within your
mhm,
hetero masculinity.
mhm,
But
mhm,
actually, it opens up an inner field of infinite potential within that,
mm.
that allows you. So maybe we can create this spell, everybody, so that the magic of JP is able to become like a waterfall pouring out of him.
That'd be lovely. I'm just putting my watch back on so you can see. It's my pink banded. Actually, used to be
Ah,
my wife's Apple Watch with my
yeah,
pink water bottle.
yeah. Ah, so now we're beginning to see pink everywhere.
Yes.
Okay, and of course, pink is interesting in the heart of color therapy. Pink is associated with divine or cosmic love.
Mm,
The
sounds
mixture
nice.
of the base chakra with pure white light, which of course is pure
Hmm.
force. Mixing the two, we have pink. So it's the color
Mm,
that we often see around Shiva.
mm. Perfect. I've got my Shiva right here. You can
Wow,
see.
wow, wow,
Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
wow. And so you mentioned just now a book, and I noticed that there was a great whoopla in the comment box by the
Which
people who
book did I mention?
you mentioned that you were going to write a book.
Oh, yeah. I am. Yeah. I've been
And
saying I am for a very long time, but I've been saying I am in the future, not I am and like postponing it. And I don't know why. I've just never wanted to write a book because that would help my business. Just something about that didn't land for me because I love writing. And for me, writing is an expression of my heart. And I guess had the sense that it wasn't time yet, but it's coming. It's coming soon.
mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm. And so the writing would be a celebration of
Mm,
all you've been given thus far in the experience, both internally and also externally.
yeah.
The inner workings of your consciousness in terms of thought and feeling, and the way that you, from this very responsible point of view, that you bring to us as an executive of change, that there is something happening on the outside which you also are highly observant of,
Mm,
present to.
mm.
As a result, we begin to recognize, so my book can be a point of celebration.
Yeah. Yeah. It's my celebration's a nice word. I relate to, I mean, when I write, because I do write and I write and I publish things on the internet. And when I'm writing, I am feeling as deeply as I can what is the essence of my experience in especially in the love, whether it's the awe or the heartbreak or whatever it is. And I am in almost desperation to find the perfect word to give you as much access to that experience as I can, because I want to share my experience with you, the experience of freedom, the experience of love, the experience of power. And I think when people experience something, they discover a capacity to emulate that for themselves and to generate that in their own style and way. And so it's a way of, it's the greatest gift I have to give is my experience of love. And I love using words to do it. So that's what the book will be, whatever form it takes.
Do you see? You've got it right there. And
There
that
it
was
is.
that was the crucible that I was actually seeing. That was the sort of container, the holy
Mm,
vessel for this.
mm,
I believe that Diamond is saying loving the newsletters, so
mm.
is applauding you for your written style and the
Thank
way
you.
that you conjure something very specific. So he is an incredible writer, she says, in the comment box.
Thank you, Diamond.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you hear the exchange of thought and feeling on this level, if you have any questions that you would like to ask JP, please just write them in the comment box. But can you make them really concise rather than write, just, what about da 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 da? How would you approach this? Or is there an answer to this? Something as simple as that. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And when you look into the world and you see the extraordinary changes that are taking place in the world, particularly in the field of commerce, are there any particular areas of that commercial panoply that you would love to work within, whether it be advertising or AI or?
I am interested in AI. I have been in a number of conversations with people about it. I've been interviewed about it in the AI space, just my perspective as a philosopher. And I'm exploring the development of some artificial intelligence to bring into the work that I do. And the reason I'm interested in it is, I guess, a couple-fold. One is because I have a background and I studied physics. It was computational physics, a lot of the computer programming. I know how to write code. So there's kind of a techie, geeky interest in it as well, and just like the magic of what it can do. But there's also, I guess, I have this hope, that this possibility that, like, whilst it's an exacerbation in the focus on the kind of left brain, rational, conceptual, my kind of hope is that by offloading that into technology, that it will allow us to return to the deeper, non-artificial, we could say, so to speak, the embodied, because what will distinguish us once AI is doing all the conceptual thinking? It will be our embodied nature. It will be the thing that's everything that's about us that's not that. And my hope is that the emergence of this will actually deepen us. We'll find ourselves offline more. And so I'm kind of exploring that space. When you say commerce, I'm not thinking about, because it's a business opportunity. It's more like, keep your friends close and your enemies closer, right? Like, I want to be close and immersed in it so that I can dance with it in a way that's going to deepen the work that I do. Otherwise, I just think we'll get swept away. It's going to impact every industry, but especially and including this industry of personal and spiritual development and growth. So I'm interested for that sake. When it comes to just commerce in general and money, I just think it's an interesting time because there are a lot of people who would have and may still identify themselves as capitalist that are, there's doubt creeping in. It's like the shell of that worldview is cracking, and there's a possibility. And I think that people are past the point of thinking, if I'm not a capitalist, that means I'm a Nazi. And it's like their only alternative is something really, communist or something really horrible. And now it's like, maybe there's something transcendent. Maybe there's something beyond capitalism. I think that people are starting to open to that idea. And so I think that it's an interesting time to see the emergence of a new economy. And I think that, I'm a huge fan of the work of Charles Eisenstein, who wrote The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible and Sacred Economics. And I think that we're seeing the emergence of a new story in relationship to money and commerce and how it works. And I feel like that the conversation that we're in with creating Love and Power is part of that, is part of unfolding that new story, some kind of gift economy or something like that. So, and I'm excited to explore models of what that might look like in our work, so, I don't have too many thoughts like in more detail than that.
Yeah, beautiful. And in fact, sharing resonance, Charles came into my mind about 20 beats away.
Cool.
So we're on to that level of definition that his skilled mind is able to, in a very literary way, bring us to.
Nice.
There are a number of questions that are coming forth, and one of them is, how can I create more access to seeing the innocence?
Well, Lindsay and our team brought this great exercise to our event. I don't think you were there for that. That was on Friday, which was looking at a picture of yourself as a child remembering yourself as a child. I think that's a great one. For me, whether it's seeing the innocence for myself or seeing it in other, it doesn't really matter because it's seeing innocence. And so I like to use other people as a way into innocence, which is innocence for myself.
And
And
I guess
again,
this is one of the glories of having your two boys.
yes, it is. Having a child makes it easy to see the child in a person because they're children.
They're both beautiful innocents.
Yes. So you can look at kids, but I think the real power is to see innocence where we don't see it. It's easy to see it in an infant. Actually, I have a really good example of how we lose our ability to see innocence as kids get older. At my house in Santa Monica, before we moved here to Maui, we had some curtains. And when my then 4 or 5-year-old Asher would pull on the curtains, I'd say, Asher, stop pulling on the curtains. You know better. And he would stop. And then my 1-year-old was just crawling and went over to the curtain and pulled on it just like his brother. And I thought that was so cute. And I said, Kalpna, look at Rumi. He's pulling on the curtains just like his brother Asher. Oh, it's so sweet. Don't pull on the curtain, Rumi. So I'm saying the same thing. Don't pull on the curtain. But one, it's coming with this, you know better. And the other, it's, oh, it's so sweet, but don't do it. And so what's different? The only thing that's different is I've started to lose my ability to see the innocence of my 5-year-old son because now he's got agency and he should know better. And all these stories come in. So the loss of the seeing of innocence changes who I be with that person. And then they put him up to 50 years old. I say it's like poo-poo head versus shithead. What's the difference? The difference is the adult version, we don't see their innocence. But if they're calling you a shithead, they're just frustrated and all they've got right now is to call you a name. And so seeing the child in an adult for me is the real power, because then I'm seeing innocence in a place where it's hard to see it. So how do I do that? Like I saw with this woman, look into their eyes and a question. What does the question do to a person? That's what's interesting to me, not what is the answer it produces. So I just might ask myself a question like, what did they look like when they were 5 years old? And so if this woman's yelling on the plane, what did she look like when she was 5 years old? She probably had very thick glasses and she was feeling misunderstood and couldn't see, and she was frustrated and she was yelling at people. And the poor kid, how about 3 years old? And so what question do I ask myself that has me see a person in their childlike? There was a point, this homeless beggar on the street that's haunting me to give them money. Somebody used to hold them in their arms and feed them a bottle. And now they're alone on the street. Like my heart starts to break just going there. So what is a question I can ask that will take me to the place that will break my heart? That's how I practice seeing innocence, is to ask myself a question that will break my heart.
I'm often asked the question, what is the opposite of guilt? Because guilt is such a contaminating force in our midst and really generates the force that leads us to shame and leads us to denial. And for me, it has always been innocence, that guilt is contaminated innocence. That in our innocence, as we explore when we're babies, when we're exploring the world, that we may suddenly engage in a behavior that is considered to be inappropriate. It might be something inside ourselves, whether it's the mouth or the anus or whatever orifice, or our ears or nose. We're automatically blamed for it. But as soon as we actually see, obviously there's a teaching there, which is an energy boundary, which is crucial, of what is appropriate, what is inappropriate, what's accurate, what's inaccurate, depending on the behavior zones that we're operating through. There is ever anger utilized. It's always a contaminating force that really is to destroy the individual.
I was just going to say, I can really relate to that. That's where my wife Kalpna and I are very conscious of that when raising our boys, because boundaries are important. That's just, I think, where did I hear this before? Alan Watts maybe talked about fressen and essen, the two words for to eat in German. Yes. And one is to eat like an animal and one is to eat like a human. And your job as a parent is to help them to move from animal to human. And it's just domestication, but it doesn't have to come through force and fear. It can come through love. It might take a little bit longer for them to get it. Yes. But, we're buying into the idea that something more beautiful will occur once they've come to know boundaries through love versus through fear.
Yeah, and if we extol the virtue of beauty, that the plate that we're eating off is beautiful, that
Mm,
the food that we're eating is beautiful, that the utensil that we use to eat and the way that we eat is beautiful, if it's all,
mm,
without becoming wanky, without becoming sort of
yeah,
self-aggrandized or
right.
masturbatory about it, that
Yeah.
suddenly, because we all look for beauty, knowing that there is beauty in nature, which helps us
Mm,
to order the chaos of the inside.
I love that.
You know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we also have another fascinating question. What's the question that I can ask that will break my heart?
Mm, mm,
I love
mm,
Diamante. I love the questions.
mm. Yeah, that's great. I mean, to go back to what I was saying, it's like, where did they struggle as a child? Like,
Yeah.
can I see them struggling this way, but as a kid? I mean, that's
Mm,
always heartbreaking to me, or where they've ended up compared to where they used to be, you
mm.
know? Yeah.
So right back at you, Diamante. That's
Mm,
absolutely amazing. What can you consider all that's been offered? Um,
mm,
Catherine is speaking about her heart overflowing.
mm,
Good. So we're really moving into, I keep using the word crucible, or we're really
mm,
moving into the apex. We're moving into the very center of the way that love and power are created, which is from the heart and not from the head.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting the head out of the heart's way.
Do you feel, I mean, obviously being on the island is fostering all of this internal and external evolutionary growth. Do you feel that you will possibly move from the island at this time, or you're just very, very happy
No.
being fed by the energy?
Yeah, we're so fed by in so many ways. We're here for the long haul. As I say to my wife, I'm with you forever right now. So I'm here for the long haul right now. That's
Could
the
you just
state
say
of
that
being.
again, please?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not the most romantic thing to say to your wife, but I say I will be with you forever right now. So I mean, I'm living in the I will be with you forever, but I'm also, who knows what the future holds. But
Yeah,
I'm in the long haul right now. We're planting trees that will fruit in 10 years or 20 years. We'll raise our vision is to raise the boys here. I mean, they have a beautiful life. We have a beautiful community of friends. We grow food. We exchange with our friends and eggs with our chickens. And I mean, it's paradise. We have great weather, short drive to amazing beaches. So, the only problem is that I'm now emerging into an in-person trainings. So there's going to be a lot of flights across the pond. We'll try to line them all up so I don't have to cross the pond too many times, the Pacific. But otherwise, yeah, we're happy here. We're happy everywhere, but we're really happy here.
yeah, yeah. Which again is that wonderful juxtaposition of the infinite, but also talking about the holy instant and
Mm,
how they both are so wonderfully co-creative. They're stimulated by. There
hmm
was another question which I just wanted to go back over. I don't think I can actually find it. Oh yes, I'm not quite sure what this means, but see if you can grapple with it. JP, can you speak to how, where you apply both and versus either or?
Yeah, I mean that's somebody who's probably done some of our work because the both and is just a philosophy that we kind of stand for. It's very Taoist versus making choices. I talked about it earlier, but I'll revisit it in the context of this. You can either do what you love or make money. That's a very much an or, and you can do only what you love and make all the money you need to have everything that you want. And well, how do you do that? Well, if I told you, then you'd be following my way, and that wouldn't be what you love. That'd be what I love. So I can't give you an answer, but what I can do is I can tempt you to start trying on that possibility, that deciding to be in love, to do only what you love, and at the same time being committed to producing the abundance in your life. That by you holding both of those at the same time as a commitment, infinite creative intelligence will show you how, one step at a time. And so we can pick certain areas of your life. We can pick, certain days, weeks, times, periods of time for you to practice this. But it's like I said earlier, you've got to at least entertain the possibility that both are possible. Um, One of the principles that I like to share around how to get into paradoxical thinking, because I used to live in a very either or mindset. I saw contradiction everywhere, whereas now I see only paradox. I see two truths where people might see you can't have one of those. You go and pick one of those. And I'm like, no, both. I can live in that. So I remember what it's like to move from one paradigm to the other. And a simple way to do that is to time cycle back and forth. It's like, well, this is true for an hour, and then I'll go into the other one is true for an hour. Like, make an argument for this, then make an argument for that. And then maybe 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute, 1 minute, 10 seconds, 10 seconds. And what happens is they start to oscillate closer and closer. The frequency gets higher. And then you're in this place where you're just humming, where both are true at the exact same time. You know, I'm just coming from love. I'm here to get the money. I'm just coming from love. I'm here to get the money. One sentence, then another sentence. Then inside the same sentence or statement, it's coming out of my mouth. I'm just loving you, and I'm making an ask for you to hire me. And then eventually at some point you come to this place where it's like, my ask for you to hire me is the expression of my love, genuinely. And there's a really powerful, there's a power in paradox as well. So that's a context and also an example of how I kind of move from either or into both and.
Beautiful. And for those who are new to your particular, your philosophic exploration of spiritual and material matters, could you just give a definition of the difference between contradiction and paradox?
Yeah, a contradiction is where there's two opposing truths. Like, my mentor Steve Hardison uses the idea of dry rain. It's raining, but it's dry. It's like, that's a contradiction. It's not possible. Well, actually, it is possible. There's a type of rain that falls from the sky, and when the ground is so hot that it evaporates before it hits the ground. It's dry rain. It's literally true. It's paradoxical truth. So it's like, whenever we're seeing it can either be this or this, there's always a transcendent position where both things can exist at the same time. We're just missing a piece of information. We're missing a perspective. It's like this or like this until you zoom up and it's like, oh, I can see them both at once. Within the same field of view. And
the paradox?
The paradox is where you have two seemingly contradictory truths, but both are true at the same time. So a paradox is essentially where it seems like a contradiction, but it isn't. That's what the definition of paradox is. Yeah.
So the paradox is transcendental, and the contradiction takes us into a limited space, a limited zone. Unless we have the magical ability to dance with the divine fool around the principle, and that it's merely tempting us into becoming more concrete in choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. This has been the most amazing conversation. I want to thank you.
I've loved it
for this. This is absolutely wonderful. And unfortunately, we're running out of time, everybody. But I know that those of you who are new to JP will want to bask in the oasis of his thinking and feeling. And so the best place to do would be to go to your website.
Yeah, our team's website is wearecreating.com. Wearecreating.com. You can find more about me through that, as well as the team and the work. And then I'm pretty prolific on social media. We can tag my YouTube channel, I'm sure here. Ryan can do that. It's just at JP Morgan JR on all my social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. So yeah.
There it is on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. wearecreating.com. And we will make sure that in the recording of this unique deep dialogue, there will be a record of all of JP's social media outlets or channels, I should say. Outlets, channels, anyway, whatever.
Both.
So well done. Thank you so much. This is absolutely wonderful. And we've come to a point of finality with this particular aspect of our conversation. But please stay where you are, JP. But to everybody who's been tuning in, thank you for being here. Don't forget that there will be another deep dialogue at the same time next week. Or if for some reason you can't tune in live, then please do go into the recording, because there are 3 more weeks, I believe, if I'm correct, of some very scintillating people who are going to be expressing all sorts of different rich intelligences from different perspectives. So do have a look into the next what the next deep dialogue is. And if for some reason you would like to be on my newsletter list, go to the angelsofatlantis.com and click on the blue orb. How could be anything more angelic than that? The angelsofatlantis.com. Thank you so much, everybody. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Stuart.
See you in a second.